This is the WGNS Action Line, talking with Rutherford County newsmakers about what matters most to you. Now, your host, Scott Walker.
This morning, we'll be talking about the Rutherford County School System, and Dr. Jimmy Sullivan is in studio with us today. How are you this morning?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself, sir?
I'm good, but cold.
Very cold. Very.
You forget every year how cold it was the previous year, and you always say, man, I don't think I've ever felt it this cold before.
Yeah, I had the suit jacket on this morning. Very quickly said, no, we're going for the winter jacket. That was chilly.
Suits are surprisingly hot in the summer, but yet they are nowhere near warm.
Didn't do very much this morning when I went to warm the car up.
I get that. Yeah. That's rough. So what happens usually this time of year within the schools?
A lot of things. So starting back from Christmas break, kids start tomorrow. We usually see quite a bit of student growth, people moving here over the break. We are starting budget season. So our principals, our departments working with our funding body and our school board, of course, to set budget priorities and really working in 2 years, I know it may seem strange to everyone out there, but working to finish this year up and really already starting to plan for next year. And then winter weather. So that is huge. We were up last night texting till about 11 o'clock with our leadership team, seeing what are we doing for teachers today, because a county to our west had to close for today because of some just freezing drizzle that came out of nowhere. So we were waiting to see if it was going to make its way here. So far, so good for us.
And, I'm sure you've got some teachers and other employees that probably work in some of those counties.
You do. Yeah, something you always have to take into account.
That can be a little challenging for them to get in.
Very.
How closely do you have to work with the school board on a regular basis?
Every day.
Nonstop
every day. Yes, sir, every day.
Because you have those professional boards out there for things like banks and other businesses and companies, but of course, they're not interacting with their board on a daily basis.
Yeah, I try to be very transparent in how we operate, so I think it's good for everyone to know. When it involves the school board's elected. I'm the sole employee of the school board, so I'm appointed by the school board. I'm in charge of day-to-day operations. School board sets policy, hires a director of schools, and then kind of oversees through policy. But I believe it's important for us to all be on the same page the best that we can. And so I try to keep them updated while maintaining the role of running the day-to-day operation. So, of course, our communications director does a great job. He sends them a daily update of what's truly going on in the school system. And then our board works tirelessly because we meet 4 times a month. I would argue we probably meet more than anyone else because we have to. We're such a large school system.
And school rezoning, that is something that is on everybody's mind. That's been the big topic of discussion, I guess, over the last few months.
Yeah, that's always a lot of fun. So we went through a large rezoning over the last really 2 years. So we started with, I think I was on this show about this time last year when we talked about it. We went through a third-party vendor, looked at all of our schools to see what's our capacity. Then we looked at our enrollment, what's growth look like, and then finally finalized those school zones in December. Part of that was due to 3 high school additions, but we also have a brand new elementary school that will open in August.
Hey, and how many students are at the schools right now? Because I know you said, it fluctuates this time of year. So what are we looking at?
Right at 52,500, if that includes pre-K through 12. If you're looking at just the students who were required kindergarten through 12, just under 52,000.
That's a lot of kids.
It is a ton of students.
Yeah, I mean, that's bigger than the majority of cities in Tennessee.
It absolutely is, yes.
That's got to be a little chaotic controlling and leading that many students.
It is, and what we try to focus on is we're only as good as our people. And so that is really what we try to lead with, is that we focus on our people. Culture has to be what sets us apart, or otherwise we will fall into that pit of being a large, just bureaucratic school system who can't get out of its own way. And that is what we lie awake at night trying to make sure we don't become, is just a large urban school system that is stuck in bureaucracy. So as long as we keep our focus on our people, I feel like we'll be all right.
And I'm sure you've gotten some weird phone calls over the past few months with the rezoning and everything.
Yes.
What's the strangest or most awkward call you've received about that?
I think I hate to say my favorite, but the strangest ones are the ones where you get chewed out and then you very quickly realize that they are not in your school system. They're actually in our sister school system, or the ones that we have a school system in North Carolina that is Rutherford County, North Carolina, and We get emails at least monthly or phone calls monthly about a student that is zoned for a different school, and they are so mad at the principal that they got zoned there, and it's not even in the same state.
I read a story the other day, an article about how this guy who works for, I forgot what airport it was, but this airport, they have somebody who literally goes out to people's homes or hotels, wherever they're staying once they land, and he delivers their luggage if their luggage is lost in transit somewhere or they forget it at the airport. He was talking about how once he got to that person's house or that address, he, more times than not, literally gets chewed out, cussed out, and so forth, because people are taking out their anger over their forgotten luggage or their misdirected luggage on this guy, this poor guy who doesn't even work for the actual airline that the luggage was lost at to begin with. And he said all he can really do is just laugh it off. And he is now at a point where he welcomes those odd conversations, those angry conversations, just because it gives him something to talk about at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I think that's the way I would probably handle this stuff.
But sometimes you do. Most of the time, as long as people feel respected and heard, at the end of the day, you can have a decent ending to that conversation.
I guess when you look at the bigger picture, well, you don't know the situation at home and what that child has already gone through. So you just got to say, okay.
Yeah, I understand or I empathize with your concern, but ultimately all of our schools are good schools, so they'll get a good education, whatever school they're zoned for.
Now, with that new school opening up, the new elementary school, what are we looking at there as far as student numbers?
Between 600 and 700, and so that's a good start. That school is right in the middle of where we have another charter school in Murfreesboro, and then it is dual zoned a little bit with a part of Murfreesboro City School, so that always fluctuates a little. So you truly don't know until the doors actually open how many, but it will be between 800 and 900 projected at year 3.
In that particular area, that land, that is going to be used for middle school in the future, right?
Yes, I hope to have bids for the middle school in March and then ask for county commission approval in April.
What other schools are we needing? Are we needing more high schools right now?
High school, desperately. It's a little bit unique. We were growing so quickly at the elementary school level probably 5 to 10 years ago. As housing prices have increased, our demographics changing a little bit. We aren't seeing the elementary growth as much. We are seeing more established families move into the area because the housing market is more expensive. And so the middle and the high school level is where we're seeing more of the growth. And so we are hoping to have land in the next couple months. And then I hope to go and ask the county commission for funding for a high school in the fall.
It's wild to me because I grew up here. It's wild how the home prices have gone just through the roof.
Yeah, it's astronomical.
And there's fewer homes available too. So that's the other side of it. That's another problem.
Yeah, we hear it. And one of the things that's a big topic right now is bus transportation. So we talk to our contractors a lot. It's a contract year. And I definitely empathize with the price of providing that service. But the other thing I have to keep in mind is I have staff members, whether it is classified staff or certified staff, who can't afford to live in the county either. It's a fine balance that you have to make sure that you're always aware of.
There was a nationwide shortage that we heard about, we reported about regarding bus drivers, school bus drivers more specifically. Has that been a problem here in Rutherford County?
To a small degree. We're unique and we have a contracting service. It's been a contracting service for decades in this county. And so we have independent contractors, several hundred, and it is up to those contractors. We have a good relationship. It is strange that it's a contract year, so that, of course, anytime you're negotiating, strains that relationship a little bit. But we're not in the situation that you were seeing across other counties and other states. Part of that is because of that relationship, and part of it is the work that our contractors do. I do worry about as we continue to grow. For example, we need to add at least 10 new routes next year for the new elementary school. With traffic and the amount of time it takes and the limit of how long students can stay on a bus, there is going to become a breaking point, and we're pretty close to that breaking point. Is
there a specific limit of how many minutes or hours a child can be on a school bus?
Yes, there are. So it's 90 minutes.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
The interesting things you learn. So literally one bus route, I mean, it has to start and finish at a certain time, no matter what.
Has to.
Is there a bus aid on every bus too? Because I know the city does something like that.
There's not, and that is something that we would love to provide, but you are looking at, we've got over 300 bus routes. You're looking at most of our buses run 2 routes, so you're looking between 150 and probably 200 employees, and that's multiple millions of dollars. That is just not feasible for us right now. We have several that we're trying to put on some of our high needs buses, but it's just not a realistic possibility for us right now.
The cost of something like adding a bus aid, it is so astronomical.
It is.
Because of the fact that you do have so many school buses. It's not like a small business where you can say, all right, we need another part-time worker at the front desk. Well, that's easy to do. It's one person. But then when you look at hiring another 150 people all at once, it would be madness.
It's something that I don't think our community really understands. Under the old state funding formula, you were provided funding for transportation. Under the new state funding formula, you're not provided funding. So it is something that is truly up to districts and local taxpayers to provide. To put it in perspective, we're over $30 million that we provide for bus transportation. It's about 7% of our entire budget goes to provide transportation for buses that you don't receive any type of state revenue for. And so that's a service we provide, but that service costs money. And so that's something that as we look at and continue to talk to taxpayers and our local just constituents, they have to be aware that to continue that level of service, unfortunately, is going to continue to cost money.
Speaking of money, the cost to build schools is also going up like crazy.
Yeah, we're competitive and very much so underneath what some of our local schools build for in our other counties, but you're looking over $400 a square foot to build a new comprehensive high school, which Rockville, we were at the $200 a square foot, and just the cost of inflation being in a hyper-competitive building market with Nashville. If you're looking for commercial industry, school buildings considered commercial, you are competing with the commercial industry in Nashville, which is tough.
And when you look at the cost of land combined with the cost of building a new school, how much do you think it'll cost to build a new high school?
Between $180 million and $200 is what we're looking at. Now, that is everything. That is sports fields, but Rockville was about 90 to 100. So you're looking at, by the time it's finished, it'll be a decade. I know it's hard to believe, but by the time Rockville to a new high school opens, that's a decade that's passed, and it basically is doubled in price.
Man, insane that things cost that much now.
Yeah.
So to build this new school, which you're going to need a new high school in the near future.
We need it yesterday. Yes.
Do you have land yet for the new high school?
We do not.
When you get the land, you're looking at 150 to 200 million to actually build that new structure. But the question of where is it going to be, and will you be able to find land in the area where you need it?
I hope so. We're in negotiations to be able to purchase that land. So that's why I'm hopeful that it'll be soon, somewhere in the north end of the county.
There's going to come a time where there's not going to be land available in order to build that next school. What do you do in those cases?
I think we are quickly getting back to, because of what you mentioned, the land. We already have gone back to two-story buildings, or gone to two-story buildings. The new high school is probably going to have to be a three-story building. Once we get to the next 5 to 10 years, we're probably going to get back to the community school aspect, just because there's not going to be enough land, which I don't hate. Grew up in this county, went to Walter Hill, K-8. I like the community aspect. There's just not going to be enough land to build huge, comprehensive schools like we have.
Once Rutherford County hits this, let's say, 500,000 mark, that's going to happen sooner than I think most people realize. But once that occurs, are we going to start seeing new schools that are smaller in communities?
We'll have to. Yeah, we'll have to.
Because you'll have to have smaller pieces of land.
Same exact thing happened to Metro Nashville. You've got huge McGavick, and now you see there's opening smaller high schools that they build now.
That's not a bad thing at all.
We would much rather have smaller high schools than our large 2,500 student high schools. Yes, it saves money because you're not building as many buildings, but the operational costs are huge because you've got to have extra administration. You have to have extra safety and security. It probably offsets itself, and the educational environment's better the smaller you are.
Again, the flip side of it is you still have admin at each one of these schools.
You have to.
More principals, more assistant principals, and so forth.
Yes. And that's we always watch administrative overhead to make sure that we're cost effective. But at the end of the day, we at our high schools have one assistant principal for every 500 students. That's still quite a bit of kids responsible to one administrator when you're handling discipline, handling meetings, handling parents. And so it's still tough.
What are some of the biggest things or maybe obstacles the schools have overcome over the last, this school year? What are the biggest problems that have been seen that are being addressed?
I think just the constant flux in enrollment. So we continue to see that fluctuation in enrollment that we've done well. And then we've actually done really well with you see the nationwide teacher shortage. We're under 20, 30 openings. And to have 7,000 staff members certified and classified to be under 30, we're thrilled with it. And that is something that we talk about all the time. To continue to be this big district, to be successful, it has to be our people, and we have to be able to lead it together.
Are the teacher shortages caused by teachers who are retiring, or is it caused by teachers who are moving on to other fields of work?
A little bit of both. Some of it is teachers retiring, but the biggest part is people not entering the profession.
I could see where that'd be a
people
big
not
issue.
entering the profession.
And why is that? Is it just that they don't want to work with teens today? They don't want to work with little kids? What is the problem?
I think anytime you are talking to just the national narrative around education is not positive sometimes, and so that definitely has an impact. You want to make sure you have a competitive salary, and so when people can't live in the community that they teach in, that adds a dilemma. And then just making sure that we have the respect level from students to teachers is something that we always have to be mindful. Working conditions have to be strong.
Are there new programs in place, or have you seen other school districts offer new incentives in order to bring on new educators that may work here?
We've actually tried to do a lot of that. We've talked about it on this program before. Probably the biggest one we've been able to do is our salary schedule we did 2 years ago is we went from 21 years to 25 years. So we've been able to gain some veteran teachers. A neighboring district to our west already did that. So we were able to retain some of our teachers who were moving there to get their higher steps. But we've been able to gain some teachers from other districts. And then some other areas we've been able to do is to make sure that for teachers who are second career people, we have our own educator preparatory program that we've talked about that allows somebody a career with a bachelor's degree to come into our own program. They can't get a master's degree like you could at MTSU, but we can allow you to go ahead and start teaching depending on what your certification area is. And that has truly been a lifesaver for us for filling classroom spaces.
With the program where you have these professionals out there who knows what they did before. Maybe somebody was a biochemist and they retire, then they become an educator for
Absolutely.
Rutherford County. Hey, have you seen some positive stories with that?
Oh,
because,
absolutely.
I could just imagine, well, if you're retired and you go back to work because you want to be in education, I could see that being somebody who's really enthusiastic about teaching.
It is, and what we have tried to do to offset, because usually there's a cost difference or a salary difference coming from private sector coming into public education. Usually they're taking a pay cut. We now give 10 years of experience to somebody that is coming into the private sector or coming into public education as long as they have 10 years experience. And that's help offset that and just the enthusiasm that those people bring. We have to teach, of course, classroom management, but they have the content knowledge. We just have to teach how do you teach kids. If we can get past the first 6 months of just the frustration of you're not dealing with adults, you're dealing with teenagers and young adults, then we have great, successful teachers. We just have to get past that first 6 to 9 month period of these are teenagers.
That would be quite the shock for some.
It is, but we are well over an 80% retention rate with that program.
That's great. Yeah. But man, I can just imagine some of the stories that those in the world of business or maybe a different line of government, some of the stories they have to tell that they could share with the kids that would make a difference.
It's phenomenal. Truly is. Man,
now looking back over the years, you always hear stories about how the teachers who are in the arts, maybe it's a band director, maybe it's, literally an art teacher, who knows what it is, but you hear stories time after time about how this educator changed the life of this student, all because they helped to bring out whatever artistic ability they had. The teacher was able to bring it out in a way that nobody else was.
Yeah. We have a great fine arts director, Dr. Halford, and we have really invested the last couple of years, probably the last 5-6 years, started under Mr. Spurlock, and really Mr. Odom as well, really investing in our fine arts programs. And I put our fine arts programs and our instructors up against anybody. I think it goes to say we have an amazing, really amazing programs across the county, and that's just highlighted that we across the state get one band chosen a year or every 4 years that gets chosen to represent the state of Tennessee at the presidential inauguration parade, and Stewart's Creek High School will be representing the entire state of Tennessee in Rutherford County on January 19th and 20th. And so that's just a testament to fine arts. Yes, they're representing Stewart's Creek, but they're really representing Tennessee and Rutherford County as well.
Now, how many students from Stewart's Creek are going to be able to be a part of that?
Over 150. So I met with their band directors yesterday. It's over, I think it was over 170, but I know 150. Our challenge right now is we have to raise over $120,000 in about a 3-week period. So if anyone's interested, businesses, you can go to our Rutherford County website and get information on that. And that is what we are working on right now. But they are working hard, and the kids, politics aside, that was my main concern. I was like, we don't need to get into a political battle. We just need to go there and represent Tennessee and represent Rutherford County. Stewart's Creek High School and the band director said the kids have been great. I mean, they've been awesome.
You know, the coolest thing about that is these kids are going to be a part of this history.
Absolutely.
I mean, no matter who goes into office every 4 years, it is a huge part of history
Absolutely.
that you can look back and say, you know, this is what I did one year in high school.
Talking to the band directors yesterday, they said that they went back and found one high school band since 1950 that is a representative of the state of Tennessee. Usually it's the University of Tennessee Knoxville's marching band that goes. And there was one other one in 2013, and outside of that, Stewart's Creek High School will be the only one. So massive pride for our county and our state.
How do they go about choosing Stewart's Creek?
Application process, and then I do want to thank a lot of our federal and state delegation, senators, representatives for writing letters. Mary Esther Reed, Mayor Reed helped quite a bit. Scott Desjardins' office helped quite a bit as well, and then our local representatives writing letters, really advocating for them during that application process.
How are they actually going to get there to Washington, D.C.?
Very quickly, they are leaving Sunday morning. Parade is on Monday. Martin Luther King weekend. They leave Sunday morning, and then the parade is Monday.
So are they going by bus?
They are going by chartered bus.
Wow,
Yes.
that's a long ride.
That is a lot of buses. And then our testament to the community feel, the middle school band directors and another staff member at Stewart's Creek High School, that's part of their band program, is actually having to ride the buses with them. The two band directors have to be there a day early for security and that different type of thing. So we have to have other people that have to step in and get there with it and take the kids on that 12, 13-hour bus ride.
When you orchestrate something like that, first of all, how expensive is something like that? Because I know you said you had to raise money.
$120,000.
And that includes the hotel?
Everything.
Everything.
Yes. Yeah, which I'm sure cost more because it was such short notice.
Yeah.
I mean, because they didn't find out till the week of Christmas when Dr. Harrell, the principal at Stewart's Creek High School, called me the week of Christmas. I thought we had a coach ejected or something from a Christmas tournament that I was going to have to meet with so they could get back on the court the next day. So definitely a better conversation than I was expecting.
Are the students going to be able to stay in the downtown D.C. area?
They are close, and then we're hoping to be able to stay a day extra so that they can hopefully tour the Capitol and do some of those different things. It just depends on how the security event is. The Army actually runs the inauguration parade. The clearance and all that hasn't been truly worked out yet.
I'm sure the students will really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Gosh, and the stories they'll be able to tell down the road.
Yeah, it's great.
Pretty cool. You're tuned to WGNS. And again, Dr. Jimmy Sullivan with us this morning from the Rutherford County School System. We have to take a short break, and then we'll be right back.
WGNS, Murfreesboro.
We are broadcasting from the Middle Tennessee Electric Studios. Search for the MTE app in Google Play or in the iTunes Store today. MTE since 1936.
Hi, this is Peter Demas. One of the things that we've done years ago is we've been able to do our orders like our pastas and many other items that we used to be able to put them in large pans, and now we have a catering team that will even deliver it to your home. We can drop it off for you, set it up, or they can come in and pick it up. Look up our catering menu on www.demasrestaurants.com. This is Peter Demas at Demas's Restaurant, 1115 Northwest Broad Street in Murfreesboro.
Hi, this is Amanda from Animal City, inviting your family to come do business with my family. We are excited to announce that here at Animal City, we are now a dealer for Roughlin crash-tested dog kennels. Just like you protect your child with a car seat, show your pet the same love with a Roughlin crash-tested kennel. We are happy to keep a variety of sizes, styles, and colors in stock. Animal City. You'll find us at 919 Northwest Broad Street right here in Murfreesboro.
We're excited to announce that Capstar Bank is now officially a division of Old National Bank. The friends you've made while banking right here over the years are still here, and so are those delicious, warm, homemade cookies. Everything you enjoyed about Capstar is still at Old National Bank.
In Murfreesboro at 2230 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard.
Come on over and enjoy warm cookies with friends while doing your banking at Old National Bank.
Old National Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
The Action Line on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at WGNSradio.com.
In studio with us from the Rutherford County School System, we have Dr. Jamie Sullivan. And one of the things that I guess the state has released has been their report card, right?
Yep.
The state report card. How did Rutherford County do on testing scores and overall?
Yeah, overall, it was our best year on record. So that is something that is a testament to this entire community. First and foremost, our teachers and our staff, and that is a collective teachers and staff. For us to be able to have success, it starts with our people. I've mentioned that several times. To have such a large school system and have the level of success, something that we continually focus on is student growth. We have about 20-25% of the students that are with us 1 year were not with us the year before. It's just such a large attrition with kindergarten students moving in, high school students leaving, 6th to 7th grade with the city, and then just we're growing so much. And so we can't control the academic performance of kids that move in, whether they're proficient or where they scored, but we can control how much they grow from the year they came to us to the end of the school year. And so we focus on student growth, and it's measured by levels of level 1's the worst, level 5 is the highest. And something that I hope that I'm known for is I say all the time, we must grow. There's no excuse for students not to grow, period. They have to grow. We had 32 of our 48 tested schools as a level 5 school. And so that is the most we've ever had. We had 22 the year before, 26 the year before, and 32 of 48. So 2/3 of our schools are the highest performing they possibly can be. That is a huge achievement. The state expects level 3 to be the expectation, and to have 32 of our 48 to be 2 levels above that is a huge success.
I think sometimes parents don't appreciate how good a good school system
completely.
is until they move.
Yes, I agree completely. And we try not to get into the competitive nature. There's a lot of money involved in education, and that's the unfortunate thing I've probably realized, or being in the superintendent's role now for almost over 2.5 years, is just the political nature, the money involved in education, but it truly goes down to the kids. And our teachers and our students perform. They're learning in this district. This is a great school system, and I want to do everything in my power to make sure it stays and continues to grow in our performance and making sure our kids learn.
Some of those underperforming schools outside of Middle Tennessee, and maybe even, let's say, in other states, but in those school systems where you do have a lot of problems at hand, from, poor testing scores to fights.
Yeah.
What are the biggest issues that those areas see? Because I know you see these kids coming into our system, but what are these kids coming here with? What are they equipped with after being in one of those poor performing systems?
Yeah, I won't lie. We definitely have our challenges. Student behavior is a challenge for us at times in every school, just because we are so large. A lot of times it goes down to the teachers and the staff in the classroom. You have to have experienced, caring, proficient staff members. Second is your expectations. You can walk into a school in about 2 minutes and figure out what type of school that is. And it starts with the school leader. I hate to put so much pressure on our school principals, but it starts with the school principal. They set the tone. And if there's a positive tone with high expectations for behavior, then that leads to academics. As a director of schools, the worst thing that I can do is to take a student's ability to have an education away. And unfortunately, I've had to take and expel a lot of students the last 2.5 years for behavior, whether they were threats, continuing to just misbehave, and I don't like to do that. Every kid deserves an education, but if it gets to the point where you can't act right in a school setting, your parents need to be responsible providing you a different education. And that's something that we don't take lightly, but we've had to do in some instances.
As parents get younger and younger, or at least there was a time period where in the 2000s, parents were getting younger and younger, and it doesn't seem like it's still that trend. I think a lot of parents, they don't understand the need for structure.
Absolutely.
And without a understanding of structure, I think parents often don't realize what this unstructured home can lead to.
Yeah, and that's the hard part for the schools, and what leads into sometimes you hear about it talked about as a culture war. We don't want to parent kids. We want to educate kids. That's what our job. We went to school to educate students. But if a student comes to school and they are not ready to learn, they don't know how to keep their hands to themselves, they don't know how to speak respectfully to peers and to adults, then we have to make sure that they can be a productive member of that classroom society before they can even worry about being a member of the larger society.
How do teachers go about doing that?
Rules and procedures and constant reinforcement. Sometimes, again, you get to the point where you're not learning, and we have to either remove that through an alternative school, an alternative setting. and then ultimately expelling students. And again, that's not something we want to talk about, but for parents who are worried about the safety of their kids or their students who, you hate to say do everything the right way, but parents, most of them do things the right way, and they're concerned. If it gets to the point where we're truly worried about kids' safety, we remove those kids from the environment. And
we have a new, fairly new now, alternative school here in our community.
Yep.
What takes place are there 2 alternative schools now?
We have 3, actually. So we have Daniel McKee and Smyrna West. We're in talks about in the next couple of years redoing Daniel McKee and adding a middle school site to that. The other portion is we have Simon Springs in the Laverne area. It is not fully renovated yet, so it is not all the way operational. I'm hoping the next month and a half to have it a little bit more operational.
At those schools, these are where students go who are having disciplinary problems. They're having problems showing up to even be at school. But what are some of the other issues these kids face, and why are they sent there?
It can be a multitude of things. It can be willful, persistent violation of school rules. One of the biggest things we struggle with, honestly, is vapes. That's illegal for a kid to have, but we have 18-year-olds who can go down to the convenience store and buy them, but they can't have them in a school. And so that is a definite challenge for us as a school system, where they can legally do it, but they can't have it in a school, and we still have to discipline. And so we've put some online programs in place because we wanted to have seats available for kids who truly needed to have those alternative seats.
I'm just curious, drugs such as marijuana and then alcohol used to be a big problem in the schools.
Yeah, not as much. It's vapes are our biggest, and we put vape sensors in our bathrooms now to
vape sensors.
Yes, we do. Yes, sir.
Things
you never thought. You'd be surprised. They're in some local stores as well. Now, when you go to the restroom in local stores, it's amazing when you're a director of schools or a principal, the things you notice when you go to the restroom. Oh, there's a vape sensor up there.
That'd be embarrassing. You're 50, 60 years old in the bathroom vaping, and alarms go off.
Yes, it would be.
So how does that work?
It goes off and it notifies the alarms, and it notifies you, and it actually records on the video. We don't have, of course, cameras in the bathrooms, but it records the closest camera, and pretty easy to catch who was coming out of the bathroom at that same time.
Oh, there's little Johnny coming out of the bathroom.
Yeah, I wonder who that was. Yeah.
What do you do when that happens? Do you call the parents?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then if it's their first offense, they'll have a 20-day online program through the alternative school.
It's got to be harder, though, to punish kids who are 18.
Because it's tough, but they still do. It's tough.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because I would imagine calling their parents is not as effective as very 12-year-old.
Yes, very much.
It's an interesting time in which we live.
It definitely is. But overall, I can't be more proud of the school system we have. You have a lot of negative things that happen in public education, but our school system led, and again, I have to give credit to our school board. We definitely have our battles on our school board, and I think that's good, healthy debate. But our school board sets the tone. I set the tone for leading our school system. Our principals set the tone in our buildings, and our teachers set the tone in the classroom, and our parents set the tone at home. And it takes that environment to be able to have a good school system, and we do.
And again, we're talking about the Rutherford County School System, and our guest in studio, Dr. Jimmy Sullivan. What are the interactions like with parents today when it comes to day-to-day tasks, as far as getting the parents on board to help the students study, to help make sure the kids are there on time? What is that interaction like?
Overall positive. Very rarely, I know that may seem surprising, very rarely do we have negative interactions with parents. Usually it involves student discipline. That's the most negative interaction we have, which is what you would expect. Parents, of course, we always want to believe our child, and sometimes our children, mine included, just don't make the best decisions. That's the most negative, but usually when it involves students, academics, we're working together on the same page to make sure we can get kids to where they need to be.
And getting on that same page, we mentioned how important it is to have structure within a household. Some of these kids come to the school, and the only structure they have is within the school system.
Yeah, that's absolutely. And so we structure everything from the time they arrive to the time they're in the building. And it may seem strange, but when you walk into our middle schools, you will see our middle school students walking in line to and from lunch. And you have 14, 15-year-old kids in middle schools, but they're still walking in line to and from lunch. It's the way it needs to be.
So some 15-year-olds in middle school.
Oh, absolutely.
That would mean, I guess, they were held back.
Eighth grader. Or eighth grader, depending on what year they started. Yep.
So what's because you still hold kids back if they don't pass, right?
You can, and then especially with state law change a couple years ago with third grade retention, you have not a lot, but some students who are held back because of that.
Is there a particular grade that is the hardest for students throughout their whole school career?
Right now, probably third grade, second, third grade. And then just in general, seventh grade is tough. The middle of middle school is tough.
I was going to say, it seems like middle school is the hardest for just about everybody,
It's
just
tough.
because of that transition.
Yeah, it's tough. The
puberty,
middle
and
of
then
the middle school is tough.
It's got to be hard, yeah.
It's tough. I've got a 7th grader right now, so maybe that's just the one that is very
Tough for
high
you.
on my radar right now. So,
And I don't know what it is about that middle school grade, that middle school age, if it's just that transition of going into teenage years or what. But yeah, I can see that.
yeah, it's tough.
As we close this morning, what are some of the biggest things coming up, or what do we need to remember after the winter break and everything?
Just be aware that we will try to make notifications as quickly as possible with winter weather. Safety is our utmost priority. So we have 9 inclement weather days that we have available. We will make notifications again as quickly as possible. Try to do those the night before, but sometimes we have to wait till the morning. We want our kids in school if at all possible. But sometimes, especially in Middle Tennessee, we get stuck with that morning blast to determine what we need to do.
And this may happen over the next few days.
Very well. Friday, we're already looking at.
Dr. Jimmy Sullivan with us this morning from the Rutherford County School System. I appreciate you being here this morning.
Just on a personal note, this is actually the first interview I've done since my son passed away, so it never goes without saying I appreciate the love and support this community has shown us. And if it wasn't for being from this community and love and support this community, I definitely wouldn't still be here, but I don't plan on going anywhere because this is my home and I believe in what we do.
Taking all I have and now I'm laying it at your feet. You'll have every failure, God. You'll have